We're speaking here today with Father Matthew Schiffelbein, pastor of Christ the King Catholic Church here in Topeka, Southwest 25th and Wanamaker. And Ash Wednesday, what does this mean to people, Father?
So Ash Wednesday is the start of the Lenten season in the Catholic Church. So it's a time of preparing ourselves for the next 6 weeks or so for the celebration of Easter, when we celebrate Jesus' passion, death, and resurrection, as well as a time when we renew our baptismal commitment to follow him as his disciples. So Ash Wednesday gets its name from the ashes that we place on our foreheads. You can probably see a little bit of that still there on my forehead from Mass this morning.
Sure.
And they're a sign of what happens because of sin. Because of sin, we are dust, and to dust we shall return. So it reminds us of our need to continue to turn away from our sins and be converted and turn back to God, so that we can receive his grace and be renewed. And ultimately, faithful to this, persevering in grace, enter into the everlasting life of the kingdom of heaven, so that God can save us from the dust from which we would return, and even the hope that our bodies would indeed be raised up and transformed like Jesus' own glorified body. So there's a lot that's packed into the image of the ashes as we place them on our foreheads as a sign of our desire to return to the Lord, turn away from sin, and to follow him more faithfully as his disciples.
And Ash Wednesday services, a lot of people do turn out for those, correct, Father?
They do. They tend to be a fairly good turnout. We had a pretty nice crowd at our 6:30 a.m. Mass this morning, so a lot of people on their way to work and so on that really wanted to come and to get their Lent started in this way.
Now, Lent is a period of, like you said, about 6 weeks. Easter this year is on April the 16th, so people have quite a ways here. What will happen during Lent now from here?
Okay, so during Lent, there are 3 basic practices that we're invited to undertake in order to help us be renewed in God's grace. The first is prayer. So we undertake a little bit more time to pray. We especially reflect on, in the season of Lent, Jesus' suffering and death. We might do that through reading the passion narratives in the Gospels of Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. Or we might do that by praying the Stations of the Cross, which are 14 different events that are said to have taken place as Jesus carried the cross on his way to Calvary. So ways of reflecting on what Jesus suffered in order to save us from our sins, so that we can be renewed in our sorrow for our sins, our desire for conversion, and our love for the Lord, and thus be more ready to follow him as his disciples. So the first thing we undertake on Lent is prayer. The second that we undertake is fasting. So we might give up something for Lent. Some people will give up soda, or they'll give up coffee, or they'll give up watching TV. Self-denial is meant to help us learn how to say no to ourselves, say no to our selfishness, to our sinful inclinations, so that we're more prepared to say yes to God and to others. So self-denial is really a tool that's meant to help us grow in charity and our ability to give and make a gift of ourselves to others, which leads right into the third practice for the Lenten season, which is the giving of alms, giving of support to those who are poor or are in need, undertaking works of mercy and charity, seeking to reach out to others and to make a gift of myself. So all 3 of these, prayer, fasting, and almsgiving, go together to make up what we undertake in the Lenten season. All of those help us to turn away from sin and to be renewed in God's grace and to follow Jesus more closely as his disciples. So that really is the basic of what will happen in these coming days of the Lenten season.
And of course, it all leads up to Easter, and that's the big celebration.
That is indeed, yes.
Well, Father, thank you so much for your time here this morning, and I surely appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Oh, you're welcome, and God bless you.
Thank you, sir.